Hey everyone, so I know you're all probably expecting my spoiler review for The Last Jedi soon, and don't worry, it's coming, but I figured to delay it until after Christmas, or maybe I'll put it on Christmas Day. But anyway, I'm delaying it by a week because there's so many different reactions to this movie. Like, some people love it, some people despise this movie, some people say it's worse than the prequels. I don't know why, but regardless, there's so much talk about this movie that I want, like, the hype to kind of die down for a bit before I actually give my spoiler review, because I do have a lot to say. And also, the other reason is I have some more retro reviews to do. As you can tell by my Santa hat, I'm going to be reviewing 5 Christmas-related movies this week. This is actually something that I wanted to do back in 2015. The holidays are usually a very busy time, and this is something that I wanted to do for 2 years, like I do with Halloween, where I review 5 horror movies on the last full week of Halloween. I wanted to review 5 Christmas movies the week before Christmas. But again, holidays are such a busy time, and last year and the year after that particularly were super busy, so I just didn't have time. But I have the time now, and let's kick things off. The first review I'm going to do is one of the many adaptations of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, because A Christmas Carol is one of the most iconic and brilliant pieces of literature out there. Everyone's read the book. If you haven't read it personally, then at least you've heard the audiobook. I've done both. And there's so many different versions of A Christmas Carol out there, and everyone has their own favorite. So I'm going to talk about what my favorite version of A Christmas Carol is, and that's the Muppet version. I don't think I really need to go into the plot about A Christmas Carol because everyone knows it. It's the story of Ebenezer Scrooge, who here is played by Michael Caine, who hates Christmas, hates everything in life pretty much, and he's visited by 3 spirits who kind of turn him around. Everyone knows this story inside and out. Or, as Gonzo says in the movie, we know A Christmas Carol like the back of our hands. I still don't know the back of my hands, so maybe one day I'll learn the back of my hands. Why this version? Why am I picking the Muppet version? Well, as I mentioned, it is my favorite version of A Christmas Carol. Part of that has to do with the fact that this was the first version of A Christmas Carol I ever watched. So I could possibly be a little biased just by the fact that this is the first version I saw, but it left a lasting impression on me. The songs are great. I love just everything about this movie, but the main thing that really sticks out to this movie for me is Michael Caine playing Ebenezer Scrooge. Even in his worst movies, like Jaws the Revenge, he still acts as professional as possible, because the man just wants to work, and even in the worst movies, he really commits. And with A Muppet Christmas Carol, he is really the best part about the movie. He makes this movie. Now, when it comes to the Muppet movies, as much as I love a lot of the Muppet movies, when they have actual actors in their movies, they do act a little goofy. And you can kind of accept that because the nature of the Muppets is kind of goofy to begin with. But with Michael Caine, he takes the role of Ebenezer Scrooge interacting with Muppets seriously. And that's what makes it so good. Because I bet he looked at this and went, okay, this is a Muppet movie, but I'm going to treat this performance like it's my big shot at playing Ebenezer Scrooge in A Christmas Carol, and he works. He is my favorite Scrooge out there. He's cruel, he's got the mannerisms that depict Scrooge in the book, and the first time we're ever introduced to him, there's a song called Scrooge, which basically sums up the character of Scrooge. In a few lighter ways that the book does, because in the book, there's a little segment that dogs that are basically there to help blind owners, they'll pull the owners out into alleyways just to avoid Scrooge. That's how despicable he is. And the song never states that detail, but it still does a really good job of explaining how despicable he is. And then there's the obvious actions, like reluctantly giving Bob Cratchit the day off for Christmas, who Bob Cratchit is played great by Kermit the Frog. And this was the very first Muppet movie where Steve Whitmire did Kermit after Jim Henson passed away. I love that Kermit the Frog is Bob Cratchit and Miss Piggy is his wife. And then there's a scene where Dr. Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker, as the 2 charity guys, are shocked that Scrooge is willing to let the homeless die and to decrease the population. Michael Caine is just a brilliant Scrooge all around. And again, it really helps that he treats this like a real movie. Also, for Muppet movie, this really does deliver on a lot of the dark elements of A Christmas Carol. Like, obviously, when we get to the Ghost of Christmas Future, that's the film's darkest point, and it does it effectively. It makes you really feel for Bob Cratchit and Tiny Tim, and you really feel sorry for Scrooge as well, because he's being shown what happened when he passed away and hasn't changed his attitude. It works really well. But one moment that really sticks to me in terms of a freaky moment is the door knocker scene. There are versions of A Christmas Carol out there that do the door knocker scene a little more effectively in more of a creepy manner, like the Robert Zemeckis A Christmas Carol. I know that one gets a little bit of flack, but the door knocker scene in that film is actually pretty creepy. Here it's creepy too, because you see this door like transform into Stantler's face, and at first you're like, well, that's a little goofy because it turned into a Muppet face. But the terrified look on Scrooge's face sells it, and the fact that Stantler just shouts out, "Scrooge!" with that echo really makes it a little creepy. So it's really surprising that for a Muppet movie, they get all the creepy elements of A Christmas Carol down. Now, the one thing that I really love about this movie that I think is a really brilliant move is having Gonzo as Charles Dickens, aka the narrator, and have Rizzo the Rat pretty much act like the audience, as Charles Dickens is telling the story of A Christmas Carol to the audience and Rizzo. And this kind of goes back into this being the first version of A Christmas Carol that I watched, because it helps really get the audience into the movie and thus makes them want to read the book, because it's being narrated by the book's author, even if the book's author is being played by Gonzo. This movie overall is my favorite Christmas Carol movie. I just love the Muppets in general, but I also love Michael Caine as Scrooge, how he really takes it seriously. The songs are great. It has a lot of heartfelt sequences and dark moments throughout, especially for being a Muppet movie. I just love it overall. Out of all the versions of A Christmas Carol, there are others that I do like, but this is the one that I always turn to whenever I'm asked, what's your favorite version of A Christmas Carol? The Muppet Christmas Carol. If you've never seen this version of A Christmas Carol, it's definitely worth checking out, because it's probably one of the more accessible versions of A Christmas Carol that you'll see. And that's my review for Muppet Christmas Carol. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below and tell me what your thoughts are on this movie, if and when you've seen it. And stay tuned for the rest of the week as I take a look at 4 more Christmas movies. Until tomorrow, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.